Rachel here from HFM Behavioral Health. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes today really talking to the parents that we have in our area and other areas who are transitioning from doing the online or blended learning to the wholly virtual learning. I know that we had to do a little bit of that at the school year last year, and it's a challenge, and it needs a different type of parenting and a different type of study environment than maybe just doing homework in the past. In talking to parents and talking with teachers, I've heard a lot of frustration. I've heard a lot of anxiety absolutely going through this. I know that there's a little bit of animosity sometimes directed at the school district, which is no one's fault. We have to follow the state mandate. Again, I just want to give you a couple pointers in what you can do as parents and students to hopefully try to get the most out of this transition so we can still aid in our children's learning. So one of the first things that I want to address is how to set up the learning environment. So there are definitely several things that we can do to try to increase the learning focus and attention, especially if you have children who may have some attention problems, or if they're younger children, it's going to be harder to sit and focus and look at a computer screen all day. So the first thing that I really want to encourage is to, looking at your home, think about what kind of spaces you have available. So right now, I'm sitting on my couch. This is not a place where I want to be if I'm going to try to focus, if I'm going to try to pay attention and do homework. So try to avoid letting your children do it in the living room or on a chair or some sort of furniture where they sit when they're just relaxing, maybe watching TV or videos. It's going to put them in that relaxed state of mind. They're going to be a little more checked out. So you want to avoid a sitting place like this if at all possible. One of the best places is going to be a kitchen table or a desk. I don't have a kitchen table in my office, so I'm going to demonstrate on my desk. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I just want to show you kind of what my desk looks like. Sometimes at the end of the day, because by that time I'm not always the most organized. So just looking at my desk now, which I'm going to show you in a second, this is not what we want. So right now this desk area isn't awful, but it's not the best either. If you notice, I have some bottles hanging out here. I have my drink, I have some papers, I have some candy. It works okay for me during the day because I'm not facing my desk, but especially if I'm a child and I have attention problems, I'm going to see all sorts of distractions. I'm going to see my little dinosaur guy. I'm going to be thinking about other things. I'm not going to focus on my homework. So what we want to try to do is we want to have a chair that's not going to be super comfortable, that's not going to be super squishy and plush if I can help it. If you have, sometimes rocking chairs can help because then we're able to still get that motion in while we're doing it. Or sometimes it's going to be just a regular wooden chair. If it is, there might be some discomfort during the day, so certainly scheduling a breaks is going to be important. So I'm going to quickly get rid of a couple of the distractions here and make this a little bit better workable area for myself. So in just a minute, it'll hopefully look a little bit different. All right, so as you may notice, I cleared off a couple things on my area, but I'm still leaving a few things. So certainly they're going to need their Chromebooks. I have a pencil and a highlighter, so just a couple choices for myself, so there's not too much to focus on, but I have something here if I need it to write or take notes. I do have some note paper. That is going to be important, again, especially if your child struggles with focus and attention, or if you're a student watching this yourself, if you find yourself really having trouble retaining, physically handwriting notes helps engage our brain a little bit, and it helps us to focus and retain things better. So even if your teacher doesn't require it, if you're a little bit older and able to try to take notes, it's going to just give you something else to do, something to focus on. For our younger children or the older students that might enjoy it as well, having just a couple fidgets. So personally, I like my zippers. I have my zipper bracelets in my offices at all times that people are allowed to fidget with. And sometimes keeping the hands busy can help to focus on what's going on the screen. That being said, so for some people, they can just kind of mindlessly do it, and it's going to be helpful. As parents, you're going to know your children better than anyone. Sometimes they might get distracted, where they might be playing with the things and focusing so heavily on that they're not paying attention. If that's the case, you're going to want to dial back. Maybe you could look for a different type of fidget, perhaps. Some people, if you have a chair or table legs in front of you, will put a rubber band there to kick for the smaller students. Sometimes that helps. But again, really kind of gauge your child, and it's okay to do some experiments too and find out if they do seem to retain or focus better with a fidget or without. Sometimes a way that I'll test this is if you, again, with the younger students, give them something to draw with and try talking to them and have them repeat back what you said, and then try taking it away and then say something to them and have them repeat it back and see which one they seem to retain more on. So it takes about 2 or 3 minutes. That'll give you a little more information on one of the things you can do. Certainly, you want to have television off or have your child out of an area where there's television. I've had students tell me that they have the TV right here, computers right here, and they're doing their homework and they can focus fine. More power to them, but I highly doubt it. So try to avoid that if at all possible. Another thing, I mentioned a couch before. Also, if your child is doing it in their bedroom, try to encourage them not to sit on their bed. Because again, that's just going to take us out of our frame of mind. What we want to try to do in doing a home-based school is we want to try to get ourselves in a school mentality. So one of the things I have too is I have a visual schedule up on the wall. And in it, the school district already did a job of kind of plotting out some breaks. Breaks are very, very important. So making sure after every class or two, if your child is even, let's say, walking from one room to the other to get a drink, at least they're breaking it up a little bit. They're giving their brains a moment to reset. That's very, very important too. For you as parents, it's very important to give yourselves breaks too. So whether you're working full time and your child has to do a lot of this on their own, you can teach them to take the breaks, use the fidgets, help them set up their area. If you're home with them too, then you can make sure when your child is taking a break, you're taking a break. It's really important to give our minds even those 2 or 3 seconds to reset. So whether it's listening to a song you enjoy, whether it's going for a walk, maybe it's just having a cup of coffee and just kind of sitting there and noticing the warmth on your hands, and that's all you're doing. It's very, very important to take those little breaks where you direct your mind on one thing. Because I know, again, there's lots of stress and anxiety with this, so we really need to take that minute to let ourselves try to refocus for a little bit. The last thing that I want to address is how to motivate. So if your child is anything like some of the students I've worked with, there's no motivation. The teacher's not directly there in the room. If there's not somebody looking and watching and making sure they're doing their work, they're not doing it. From what I understand, I think a lot of teachers are telling them to turn their cameras on during the classes, so that's great. Otherwise, I know sometimes kids will turn off the cameras, turn off their microphones, and sleep through class. I know it happens. And I can certainly see the temptation in that. So for the motivation, it could be something very tangible, as in, if all of your homework is done and I see your homework is done, then you get some sort of reward at the end of the day. It could be family game time. It could be money or a treat or something like that if you choose to. It could also be something like just planning something very special that you only do at the end of the school day. So if there's some sort of new hobby or new sort of family time that you can think of or do that's going to be unique only to that, it's going to be more reinforcing and give them more motivation. For your older students, sometimes it's going to be those reminders of if your homework doesn't get done, if your grades aren't passing, you have to retake this class at some point. So if you can get it done now, then you don't have to do it later, then you can get done sooner. Sometimes that might be the best motivation you have. So really trying to work with them and talk with your child and figure out what's going to be a motivating reward for them is important, and hopefully will help them to engage a little bit better as well. So hopefully some of those tips and pointers are helpful. And underneath the video as well, I did do a document with some of those pointers that I talked about. So it does address setting up the space, motivation, and I believe I have a little bit there on the parent self-care as well. So absolutely feel free to print it out. I want it to be something that you can just look at and reference a little more easily as well than watching through the whole video again. So hopefully you find it helpful. Feel free to forward it on to family and friends, other people you know that can use it. And absolutely continue to reach out to your supports. Continue to talk to your friends, figure out what you can do to help support one another, and maybe even switch off a little bit with some of the homeschooling. I know this is going to be different and unique, and we all are trying the best we can. And that's important too, is to cut yourself some slack, cut your child some slack. It's different and it's strange, and it's going to take a little bit for everybody to get in the mindset of doing this differently. So it's important to give yourself credit for those little bitty things, because it will help. And if there's anything else that you want to know about specifically, anything else that we can do to help, absolutely feel free. For those of us in the district who'd been using the school-based mental health before, so seeing the students during the day, we are still offering that either in office or virtually. So during your child's virtual day, I can still see them, send a link, and we can still have our meeting while they're at home as well, so that is still an option. And again, behavioral health is the best place to contact. So go ahead and get that set up if it's not already going. Good luck. Take care.